I paid $150 for this very broken Xbox Series X. We got cracks, we got smashes, we got dents, even this part on the top is all dented up. I feel like maybe someone upset their significant other with this one. I don't even know if this thing turns on though, so let's plug it in and see what it does. The fan is just like loose in there. Let's see what happens when we turn it on. Oh, and the power button just pushes in with, there's not actually a button behind it. Let's try it with the disc. Oh, that's just solid right there. There's nothing there for the disc to go into. Okay, so let's get this taken apart and see if this is something we can fix. I did notice that this hasn't been opened before. It looks like, I mean, obviously it was smashed right here and smashed right here, but I don't think this screw has actually come out before, so it's going to be interesting what we find in this one. I'm definitely hopeful with this one. I'm not really sure what I'm going to find inside, but I mean, as long, like, hopefully it wasn't dropped or something and caused some of the, you know, the large chips inside to become detached from the board, but I don't know. We'll see, I guess. Okay, here we go. Whew, that's some crazy damage. Got damage to the board here, over here. Surprisingly, the HDMI port, at least so far, looks fine. A lot of damage to the heatsink right here, a little bit right here. The fan, I'm not sure what was rattling around in here. I mean, I'm sure we'll figure it out as we go, though. So, got to get more screws off, and then we can see if we can figure out what's going on. I really wish I knew the story on this one. I bought it from somebody who didn't know the story, so obviously he couldn't tell me the story, unfortunately. But I feel like there was some anger involved in this one. Okay, we got the ribbon cables off. All right, let's get this fan out. There was something rattling around near the fan, but I'm not sure. Oh, I think I see what it is. This is interesting. I don't think I've ever seen this before. Let's see if we can get this fan out of here. Come on. Ah! That's the problem. That's what was rattling around. The entire fan has just totally broken out. Look at this. Never seen that before. I think it's safe to say this fan we will not be reinstalling. Oh, and then we have this green piece that goes down in there. That's been totally broken out. Something I've also never seen before. And then after that, that actually looks like the worst of it other than this heatsink over here. Oh, let's get the disk drive out. Check that out. We got some damage there for sure. All right, and disk drive is out. Got a big old dent right here. And what else? Anything else going on? Yep, another dent. So this is not in good condition. Got a piece broken out of the front right here. So I'm not sure if this is going to be salvageable, but we'll open this later. All right, now we can get the main board out, or the main board and the power supply and the heatsink out, I guess, the whole sandwich. But let's take a look inside here first. Okay, so this has been broken right down there. The power button doesn't look broken. Yeah, the power button actually still works. But I think we're going to have to replace this shell because there's just no way to fix some of this stuff. So I'm actually going to take the power button out. It's just held in by these 4 screws because I can use it for other consoles or for testing. So I do want to keep this. All right, let's get this out. Okay, well, that's a problem. The ribbon cable is just torn right down there. This right here is the cable. That's definitely a problem. Let's remove it. So that's out of here. We'll need to replace at least this ribbon cable. The board actually doesn't look too bad. I think the board itself might be okay. Might as well remove this one too while we're in here, just because I can use this for other things. There we go. That piece was all broken out, but I'm just going to get rid of this case because it does need to be replaced. All right, and now let's take a better look at the sandwich. The power supply's got a big old dent right there. This board over here, the little Wi-Fi board, that's going to need to be replaced. It's got a big old dent right here. The metal piece that covers over the board right here is bent up and pushed in, so we'll need to remove that and see if there's any damage to the board under there. Heatsink needs to be replaced. There's no way to fix that, unfortunately. And other than that, it looks like maybe a problem with this connector, so we at least need to get down to that. I feel like maybe we should try and turn it on first and see if this thing will turn on as is. Let's give it a try. All right, we have our smashed up disk drive and we have a power button attached. Now this is not something I would recommend anyone ever does at home or anything, especially with the power supply damage like this. So don't try anything like this at home. Here we go. Plugged into power. I hear some buzzing noise out of the power supply. Let's see what happens. Yep, just no power to anything. Although, it could be this connector down here. If we put pressure on that, still nothing. Let's try the disk drive. Nope, no power there either. So I do suspect probably a problem with this power supply. I think the next thing we need to do is just get this all torn down and just have a good inspection of everything. So here we go. Let's take it apart even further. Get down for sure down to this top board right here. To do that, we just have to take off a whole bunch of screws. Not as many as on the PS5, which is nice, but still quite a few. Okay, and here we go with this little board. Oh yeah, those capacitors have just been crushed. So this board is definitely toast. All right, and here we go with the metal plate. See if that shows us anything. Actually, not really. Most of this looks pretty good in here. That's good news. All right, and power supply, oh, can almost come off. I always forget that screw. All right, now the power supply can come off. Nothing rattling around in there, but that is a pretty big dent we got right there. So that could have dented down into some of the stuff on the board there. And this board also needs to be replaced. Now I'm going to get this metal plate off, and let's just take this entire top board off just so we can inspect it. All right, and metal plate comes off. And I don't really see any obvious damage there. Good news. Yeah, that board definitely needs to be replaced. This is some of the antennas right here, the Wi-Fi antennas, so gotta replace that one too. Okay, this cable mostly looks pretty good. So let's pull this board out, check the other side, and it actually looks okay. I do need to have a look at this connector a little more closely, but other than that, it doesn't look too bad. So here's the connector that we're having problems with. You can see it's just loose. There's a little plastic piece that goes under this metal tab on each side, and that looks to have just broken off. How these are supposed to work is the metal or the plastic piece is supposed to be there, and then this is a metal locking tab. Unfortunately, in this case, there's not really a way to fix it. That being said, can't really fix it if I'm going to break it. I might be able to fix it by using some glue to glue it down, but I feel like that's just not going to be as strong as I'd like it to. And then I just kind of broke it anyway. So I'm going to replace this. I'm just going to get one off of a donor board and desolder it from there, desolder this one, and then solder on the new one. Okay, so I've got a little bit of pressure on the connector with one of my tweezers. And I don't put very much pressure here because we just want a tiny bit, enough to let it fall off of the board once the solder is melted. If we put too much, then it'll tear some of the traces, and that won't be a good idea. So my hot air soldering station is heating up as it goes. I'm going to heat it up to about 1100 degrees Fahrenheit. And then that seems pretty hot, but really one of the main ways that you change how much heat the board gets is how far or close you are to the board with your wand. So when I get really close, that adds a lot more heat, and then I can pull it back and it will, oh, there we go, we got the port. And when I pull it back, it'll obviously create less heat on the board, or put less heat on the board. Okay, so there's our connector, and it looks great. Now we need to remove the one from the board, the broken one. So we're just gonna put this back here like that, and then do the exact same thing to remove this old broken one. And there we go. So here we have the bad connector, the one that was broken. You can see the little broken piece right here, or you can see where the piece was broken off. This is the good one. And here you can see what piece was broken off. There's like a plastic piece right here that just broke right off, and that's why this won't stay connected, or it won't stay down on the board. So let's get rid of this one and install this one onto our board. Now what I'm going to do is line up this connector just like this. Then I'll bring my soldering iron in. I'll put on a bunch of flux, then bring my soldering iron in and solder all these little pins and the 2 mounting pins over here. And I guess we do have 2 mounting pins back here as well. Fume extractor on. Soldering irons are nice and hot. Now it's time to flux it up. Good amount of flux along here. When in doubt, add more flux. Just helps the solder flow nicely. If you don't have enough flux, your soldering job is just not going to work. So I'm going to come in and start out with my micro pencil. And my goal here is to get a couple of these pads, these pins soldered to keep this port in place. So I've got to line it up as good as I can. That's pretty close right there. Got to be careful though. Every time I put a little bit of pressure on it, then it wants to move, so. Okay, so that makes it so it's not really going to move as easily. Now I'm going to come in with my larger iron with a good amount of fresh solder on it, and I'm going to come over and solder down this mounting pin right here. I'm going to push down on the connector just like that. Oh, don't want to get too close. Might need to come in from the back side just to make sure that doesn't happen. I think I will. I don't want to melt that connector, which I already did a little bit. That's not enough to cause any problems, but it also just doesn't look as good. There we go. That part looks great. And now this part is going to also be difficult. Almost got it. I am going to add some fresh flux. I feel like there's not that much on it right now. There we go. All right, got some pressure on it. There we go. That looks great. Okay, that's not going anywhere. I am gonna solder down these mounting pins here as well with my large iron. And there's not much solder left on my iron. So I'm going to come through and I'm going to put a little pressure. So I'm going to come through and solder all of these little pins. If you have too much solder on your iron, then you can just bridge all these joints, which is fairly easy to fix, but it's nice when you don't have to. All right, and how are we looking? That is actually looking pretty good. I need to clean this up. Let's see if the locking tab is working. Oh yeah, that works great. Make sure all of, oh, that one's not soldered. So we gotta redo that one. The rest of these look great. Okay, let's redo that pin there. Which one is that? That one right there. That's kind of weird. I'm just gonna go through and put a little more flux on the rest of these guys. Okay, let's check that pin number 2. And we're good. All right, time to clean it up. Then we'll have a look at it again. One of the problems with these is if too much flux gets down in here, it can actually get on the cable and kind of cause a connection problem. So I want to make sure this is nice and clean. That's pretty good. Let's try cable in this. See how it does. Oh, look at that. That locking tab works good. Let's push it down and see if we can pull the cable out. Yep. There we go. So that job is done. Let's see what else, if anything, needs to be done on this board. Oh, we got one loose solder joint right here on this guy. So let's just fix that real quick. All right, whole bunch of flux. There we go. Gonna use my largest iron because this is a large piece. And my fume extractor. Okay. See if I can do this where you can see it. Let me zoom in a bit. All right. I'm gonna push it forward with my, let's do some left-handed soldering. Pull it forward and solder. Oh, we got a torn pad on the board. Okay. So, in that case, we're gonna do things a little differently. I'm gonna clean all of that flux off. We gotta make sure this is nice and clean. All right, and then I'm gonna bend it so it sits about where it should. And then I'm gonna use some conformal coating. The reason I'm using this is because I don't want to remove this whole little port, the little connector. And this is liquid enough that I can put it here and it's going to flow underneath the port. So I'm going to add some all along here. There we go. Now I'm just going to set this aside and let it dry, and we'll have a look at that in a little bit after it's fully dried. Actually, I'll probably have to film that part tomorrow. This stuff takes a little while to cure, but it works really well. All right, and since we're already this far, we might as well remove this and have a look at the board on the bottom. Okay, and all of this actually looks pretty good so far. Got a little bit of a broken piece off of this little, I think it's an inductor. All right, and now this board we can pry up. Ooh, there we go. Let's see what this board looks like. Got a little bit of crunch spot over here, but it doesn't cause any problems. That's just a ground plane on the edge there, so that's not an issue. I mean, obviously this is an issue. We definitely need to install the perfect amount of thermal paste, but let's have a look and just make sure there's nothing we're missing. I don't see any problems on this board at all. All right, let's do that next, and then get it back reassembled enough so we can test it. Clearly we're going to need a new heatsink because there's not going to be anything we can do to really fix this issue. We could try and bend these all back, but it's just not going to go well. I do have another one of these already, so I'm going to get that, and then we'll install the board onto that heatsink. This heatsink actually was from a video I did a long time ago where one of these chips basically overheated and kind of blew out. It's still got a little bit of markings on there from that. So what we need to do first is apply the perfect amount of thermal paste. And there we go. Now we can get this thing reassembled enough to test and see if it'll turn on now. And a known working power supply, since the other one definitely, or at least seems like it's not going to work. I guess I can't say definitely. I don't know for sure that it's the power supply, but it makes sense that that power supply wouldn't work. Looks pretty sad. Since this piece is so bent right here, I'm actually going to replace this piece too. Got a bunch of those laying around, so might as well. And unfortunately, it's not really going to show how strong this is because this is going to cover it up. And this is not quite all the way dry yet, so I guess you'll just have to take my word on it. I'm going to plug this in very carefully. There we go. All right, now we just got a bunch more screws to install, get the disk drive installed, and then we should be able to test it. Okay, we got it plugged into power. Let's see if anything has power. Oh no. So that means that the power supply might have been good on the other one. I guess I'll have to get my meter out and start testing and see where we have voltage and see what exactly is going on this board. I just realized something. This cable does not go on like that. This cable comes from the front of the console, goes on like this. I know this. I don't know why I was putting it in here upside down. Okay, with the power cable installed correctly, now let's see if it'll start up. Okay, plugged into power. And here we go. Eject. And the power button. The white light stays on for now. So far it's looking good, but we gotta deal with that disk drive. So this is very bent on the top here. I think we just need to start by taking it apart. It's bent here, bent over here. Let's take it apart and see what it looks like on the inside and see if we think there's any hope of saving it. I can replace it if needed, but obviously it's nice if we don't have to, if we can actually just fix the one we have in here already. Sometimes these metal pieces can be very difficult to get straight enough for this stuff to work, but we'll give it a try. All right, let's check out the inside. Oh yeah, that's not good. The whole board is bent right here. This whole thing is bent. This is broken. I'm going to take this board off so we can look underneath of it and see how badly it's damaged underneath. This could actually be a major problem because even if we replace the drive, we have to have this board because the board is married to the motherboard of the console. I mean, it might be okay. Let's see what we have going on down here. Yep, got a bent metal plate right here. Let's just take this whole thing out. So in order to do that, we need to pull out this way, and then all of these clips we need to unclip. It's going to actually be really hard to get out of here because it's so bent on the top. This is just wiggling around in here. And honestly, we don't need to get this out, but it would be interesting to see what the inside of this thing looks like. Okay, I'm not going to be using this drive again, so let's do this the easy way. There we go. Yep, this whole thing is bent right here, and there's just not going to be any way to bend that back in a way that it's going to continue to work. So what we need to do is remove this board, and then we'll install this board on a replacement drive. And if we're lucky, this board will work. It definitely was bent, so we may end up replacing some of the chips on this onto the replacement board. But let's give it a try how it is and see what happens. Just need to desolder these two wires. So I'll come in and add just a little bit of flux. And black wire, red wire. The nice thing about these boards is they're even marked with a B and an R. And I'm going to install this into this disk drive that came from an Xbox Series X with a faulty motherboard. Now just 3 screws, and then I need to desolder those wires and we can install the new one. And obviously we do need to remove those ribbon cables. Okay, hopefully this one is gonna work. It'd be really nice if I didn't have to replace those chips, but I mean, if we do, we do. It's not that difficult, just kind of annoying. And the potential problem we have here is that with this board being bent, there could be cracks internally or cracks, you know, on all these little traces that we can't really see. So that's the worry, but we'll be able to find out about that soon enough. Let's install it the right side up. That would be helpful. And here we go. Let's see if it'll turn on and pull the disc in. Turns on. Disc goes in. Does it spin? I don't hear it spinning. There we go. We got it spinning now. So far so good. I don't know if it actually reads the disc, but it at least spins. So I'm going to get this all put back together into the case. Then we'll see if it'll turn on and show up on the screen and play the disc. Hopefully it all fits in here how it should. Yep. Okay, and will it start up? Power, good. The fan work? Not yet. And nothing on the screen. Oh, we got a fan, black screen. Yeah, that looks amazing. So we got it working, but is it gonna play a disc? I'm gonna get into the system and then we'll test this disc. Okay, disc is going in. Let's see if it'll play. Spinning up, good. Oh, there we go. So it looks like this Xbox Series X, even though it was in such bad condition, we finally do have it working after quite a bit of work. If you want to see a video where I bought an Xbox Series X for only $100 that was dropped on concrete to see if I could fix it, I'll leave a link for that video up on your screen now, so come hang out with me over there and see if I was able to fix it. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope you have a good one.